You're live on Sunny 88.7 FM. We're also on Facebook. Elder Amos is sharing common mistakes wives make in their marriage or with their husbands. And this message says, another kill phrase, man up. And Vicky, can you click the third one for me? It says, I think... Oh, okay, this is about the treat. Elder Amos, would you want us to read that?
Oh, yeah, please read.
We were asking what kind of treat the men would love, or some gift ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Says, I think one best treat women can give us men is super special midnight in bed service. A special one with the mind and spirit of satisfying the man in the best way.
This
ever.
one is sanctified and sealed,
Yeah.
and must be served spicy and sizzling with scintillating outcome.
Bye, oh my. This is Sunny 88.7 FM. So far, Elder has shared with us 10 of those common mistakes. I'm sure for us married women, anyone listening who's a married woman, we're taking notes.
The other one, somebody had taken the heads up.
Okay.
And that is that overwhelm him with your constant complaints of manner. You know, what I have found is this, that every time men are told to man up, they have to find a mask and wear, so they mask up. Now choose between a constant refrain that gets your husband to mask up and not show his real self, to the one that he's real and shows his weaknesses, his fears, his failings and all that to you. And that's what Genesis talks about. They were naked and not ashamed. So the nakedness and not being ashamed can be encouraged, can be inspired by the wife. And she must learn to do that with a lot of grace. And the beautiful thing about the virtuous woman, for instance, when you read Proverbs 31, look at the verse 11. It says, her husband trusts her all his life. She does him good all his life. She brings him good and not trouble. Her husband is seen at the gate. I mean, you're talking about a woman, and yet her husband is seen at the gate. And the response of the husband is that he celebrates his wife. And he doesn't do it alone. He carries the children along as cheerleaders. And then they rally around to celebrate the mother. And so there's a need for wives not to overwhelm their husbands with a constant nagging and complaints of man up, man up, man up. He may mask up all you know. 12. Serve him your preferred meal instead of his favorite dish. I've seen women who have a habit. I mean, my wife oftentimes will ask me, today and I'll be tea. I said, give me anything. And she doesn't like it. I still struggle with that.
I saw a video of a woman who asked her husband what he wants to eat. He said anything. Guess what Vicky did? She sent him a plate with a writing anything on it.
Oh my word. Somebody go Gary Soakins. The wife said, me who say when the Soakins are check.
Oh boy.
But they had, nuts and some cozy slide of bread with some nice veggies there. But it was fine. The husband ate it all the same, but he was shocked that the wife, of all the food around, she could get him only Gary Soakins.
She's exploring.
So I know that a lot of wives struggle with that kind of response, anything. And it's as though the man doesn't know what he wants. Sometimes men don't know what they want. We're confused. But you need to help us be gracious in handling that situation. And it should not be that you serve your preferred meal when he has his favorite dish. At least make allowance to give him that, what he enjoys to indulge himself in. Now, 13, refuse to give attention to his concerns, his complaints, and his cries. You see, men cry about things. And these are things they constantly raise. There are things they complain about, and sometimes it's much ado about nothing, but it's a complaint. They have concerns about the way you go about the way both of you are either existing, or you and your children, and you and your work, you and other people and all that, you and their relatives, for instance. If he has concerns about how you speak to his brother, his sister, his mom, his auntie, and all that, please, don't dismiss it. Give attention. Look, Jesus, whom we follow, This is why I've had challenges with Christians who fall into the mantra that started from Hollywood. I don't care what you think, as long as I'm fine. Is that a Christian response? It is never. That Jesus we follow at a point had to stop and ask his disciples, who do men say that I am? Then he asked them, who do you yourself say that I am? So people's view of you is not always accurate, but it's always proper to pay attention to it. So refuse to give attention to his concerns, complaints, and cries. And it may be about work, it may be about your unavailability, it may be about relationship with him or relationship with others, even with the children. I've seen husbands who complain about wives and the way they handle the children, scolding them, pulling their ears, holding them one arm and shaking them and all those things. And the wife don't budge. They don't care what his complaints are. If you do that, you're not being fair to him. He tells you all the time, from time to time when I'm not there, when you are going to turn on the vehicle ignition, check if there's water in the radiator. He's taking the vehicle to services 3, 4, 5 times. And it's simply because you are being negligent on making sure the radiator has water. You know, common things. Yeah, basic things. When you are leaving home, make sure all the sockets are off. Then he comes and constantly is the same thing. When you do that, he will complain about it. It's a deep concern of his. You put a picture on social media, he says, no, this is not on. He says, oh, my friends like it. Between your friends who like it and me as your spouse, whose views are more important? So invariably what you're doing is that he becomes redundant. So he will not speak about any post of yours on social media anymore. And is that what you want? You're bargaining for worse. Now, 14, argue with him in the presence of children and others. There are some women who love to argue. They want to make sure people know that he's putting you in your right place. I mean, why do you put your husband in the right place? What benefit would that accrue to you? It doesn't help. 15, make it your mission to fix him because he comes as a broken piece. There are women who are trying to fix men. And you see, they said they bought into the idea that your husband is your first child. Well, that has its place. But please be very careful. Men, even though they have a boyhood tendency in them, don't want to be treated like boys. They don't want to be treated like boys. So if you go about fixing your son and you transpose that to your husband, you will get a backfiring response. And it's never pleasant when you see a man who feels that the wife is trying to fix him. He's always scrolling up. Why do you treat him like he's able to get anything right unless you speak into it? It should not happen. No. You must be courteous. You must be polite. You must be pleasant in the way you deal about these things. Otherwise, you end up destroying. We're talking about things that injure husbands. 16, hold him to a past or sin that he has long forgotten or been forgiven. You see, there are people who have a recurring reference posture to things that happened in the past. The man says he has gone past the past. Why do you always go back to rake wounds that have healed? Because of the memories of the scars that you see. Because of some ghost that is lurking in the shadows. Between that ghost and being honest that, I have forgiven him. I have forgotten about it. He says he's okay with it. He's no more doing that. He's moved past it. Accept that. I know there are some men who are not trustworthy. But don't have a habit where you tell your husband, I have forgiven you. And you still hold him to that. Because the moment you refer to it, you are holding him to it. He will feel and think that, Oba, she has not gone past this thing. And it's still lacking. And it's influencing and teleguiding what you do. 17, weaponize sex. Weaponize sex. Use sex as a weapon. And how do women commonly use sex as a weapon? They use it as a reward for good behavior. If you act right and talk right and behave well, I'll give it to you. So that sex now becomes a pacifier. When we give children pacifiers, we want them to calm down and cool down. We preoccupy them with something. And so once the thing, so no kufio, as they say in Accra. Why are you doing that no kufio to your husband? Prioritize sex. Don't weaponize it. Anticipate sex. Look ready for it. Don't be casual. Don't be laissez-faire. Initiate sex. Don't just always be a receiver. Indeed, the Bible says it's more blessed to give than to receive. And when it comes to sex, it is in giving that you get. It is not get. You are not leech. You are not the ocean. The ocean receives water and still wants some more. The grave wants some more dead people. Why should a wife just be at the receiving end all the time? You too must initiate. And when I go to men's meetings, they tell me, one of the things that baffles them is that there are times and seasons in a woman's life where she's on heat. She's ovulating. She's on fire. How come the woman, when she's on fire, cannot call for sex? The husbands are always finding that mystical. Because today the language they use is I'm horny. If you're horny, don't leave your husband just like that. Don't abandon him. Call for the game. Look ready. Get your lingeries. Spot on. Position yourself strategically. Let him notice you. Tempt him. Trap him. To the extent that he is fixed on you. Entrapment. You know, I talk about the 5 T's. Tempt him. Trap him. Torment him. And tame him. When you tame him, you treasure him. The 5 T's. I mean, five T's for the women. There's one for the men. I'll talk about it the day I talk about what men do wrong. That's why it's called the 5 W's. 18. Reduce him into a mind or mood reader. But when you look at my face, you can tell. You know, when you see me, you can tell that I'm not well. How? Is he clairvoyant? Is he practicing necromancy? He's not a witch or a wizard. Anybody who reads people's mind is a dangerous being. So don't reduce your husband to reading moods and mind. Some people, when they are going through their cycle, they go through real torture. You expect your husband to know and understand. He won't know unless you tell him. So women must learn to talk. Don't reduce your husband to a reader of your mood and your mind. If he reads your mind, he will mistakenly read it. And this is where you say he's misconstruing you, he's misrepresenting you. So the best thing is, speak it out. Tell him you're unwell. Tell him things are not going right. Tell him how your emotions are set back. Tell him how broken you are, how embittered you have become. All those things, you have to verbalize it. Otherwise, you give him to go into a state of conjecture. You know how when people conjecture, they can terribly get it wrong. And this is where you start then blaming him. You are misconstruing me. You are misunderstanding me. And when I misunderstand you, how then do I understand you? 19. Make him think less of himself as a man. You see, if you can treat your husband in such a way that he will have complex or low self-esteem. The last one, and this is it. Create an impression that marrying him is a favor you have done him. And that's the last one, the 20th one. If you create that impression in a husband that marrying him, you have done him a favor, it's damaging to your man. Because you see, both of you are blessed to have each other in each other's company. And so you must learn to count your blessings together and not constantly harp and play the music and the tune and expect him to dance, that you have done him a favor. You have married and you took a decision to marry each other. And none of you is doing the other a favor. It's marriage mission we are embarking upon with the help and the grace of God as a couple.
So we have 6 minutes to go. Vicky is going to read some messages and we get to Elder How, for those of us who are ticking certain boxes, how we can approach them. Vicky.
This Facebook one says, please, the advice on getting groomed by an elder in a society where we see elders as demons and witchcrafts, what's the best way forward?
Well, it's sad. It's an adult abuse phenomenon. Dr. Anyete Nyampong helped me to understand adulthood, his publications on aging. Maybe one day, if you want to do the aging conversation, get him, because he's a specialist in that field. Many of us look down upon older people. And on commentaries on social media in particular, we are making fun of grown-ups. Yeah. And that's horrible, because the young shall grow. And be careful. One day you will also grow, and the same young people of that era would also poke fun at you and peck off your eyes if you are not careful.
Any more, Mrs. Vicky? To quickly wrap up.
I think it's also in relation to the older women who said, okay, so...
on Facebook, that'll be all?
Yes, that'll be all, because we tripped a few times.
Okay, all right. And this one says, I knew that midnight trust idea would come. Don't we already do that, though? Oh, no, this is an old message. Vicky, can we go to Elder Kevin has given some, this one says, Elder Kevin has given some serious punchlines there. God bless him. And I think the one before that says, God bless you, Elder, taking notes. Elder, so what can wives
do? If you're a wife
how can
who
we
has found that suddenly you are guilty of any one of these 20, first and foremost, admit that you have done something wrong, or you are doing something wrong. The place of admission is a start for redemption. Now, the second thing is this: identify which particular one or ones you are guilty of. So once you are able to identify, okay, I talk down at him, make him feel less of a man. Now you have to now go to the third level. What specific things do you do that brings about that particular situation or scenario I've painted? Now, once you have identified those, you now look at what motivates you to do those things. You see, because the motivation that inspires or encourages that particular thing, as long as it is there, it will be difficult to cure it, even though you have admitted. So there's a need for you to come to that place where you identify what motivates or drives that trait or tendency in you. Now, once you have found out, you should ask yourself, can you adequately respond to a new response or a new way of going about it? If you look at yourself and you don't have the wherewithal to do so, then it means you need external help. And this will be somebody who will hold you accountable. So a trust friend in a trust relationship, it could be your spouse, but usually because he's the one who is being recipient, if they are not well prepared, it will then be used as a sledgehammer on your head. And so many will avoid telling their spouses. This is where somebody who's into talk therapy, a counselor, whether a pastoral counseling or regular counseling, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, or clinical psychologist, any of these people should be able to provide you some more coaching or guidance on the way forward. Also, you can go online. There are women who are writing excellent piece on how to handle your husband. Amazing women, so many of them. They're online.
This lady was talking about how the husband keeps coming back at her. To let her know that what she has done in the past. It's like he can't let go.
So now, in this specific case, it's your husband who's coming to you that you're doing something wrong. So you have to have a gracious posture of accommodating him. Have a cozy time with him, a relaxed time, where it's not like you're trying to straighten him up, you're not trying to do anything. And ask him. You keep asking me this particular thing. You keep making this particular statement. That looks like a longing in your heart. How do you expect me to do it differently?
Okay.
How can you help me to do it differently? When you do that, you are inviting him to make an input. And that input is almost like a mirror back to you on the best way forward. Okay. And in this particular case, she must find time with the husband to have a conversation so that she clearly understands what his expectations are, and then see if she has what it takes to meet those expectations.